The Camp Nou is a graveyard for English dreams. And tonight, Newcastle United didn't just lose, they were systematically dismantled by a ghost of greatness past reborn in a Brazilian jersey. If you didn't witness the 7-0 slaughter of the Magpies, you missed the moment the spreadsheet era of football died and the era of the maestro returned. We're talking about a performance so dominant, it felt like a glitch in the simulation. Raphinha didn't just play a football match, he conducted an orchestra of destruction, leaving Eddie Howe's tactical plan in a million pieces on the grass. But here is the question that is setting the internet on fire and making the purists lose their minds. Is Raphinha finally touching the hem of the garment worn by the greatest to ever do it? Can we even whisper his name in the same breath as Lionel Messi without committing football sacrilege? Tonight, we put the hype to the ultimate test, using the implacable legend meter. We are stripping away the social media clips and the biased commentary to look at the cold, hard truth of a night that changed the hierarchy of European football. Let's talk about the first category that separates the boys from the gods. First touch and press resistance. Newcastle came with a plan to suffocate the space to play a high line and bully the ball away. They tried to treat Raphinha like a Premier League winger who relies on pace, but they realized far too late that they were dealing with a South American street footballer refined by the elite European system. Every time a Newcastle shirt closed him down, Raphinha's first touch was like a magnet. The ball didn't just stop, it obeyed. He navigated the tightest corridors of the midfield with a calmness that felt eerily familiar. When you look at Lionel Messi in his prime, the ball was an extension of his nervous system. Messi gets a 10 out of 10 because he could receive a pass in a telephone booth surrounded by 4 riot police and still come out with the ball glued to his left foot. Raphinha tonight was a 9. He showed a level of ball retention and velvet control under pressure that made the English press look like they were chasing a shadow. He was the eye of the storm. Now we move to vision and playmaking. This is where the statistics fans start crying because you cannot measure the weight of a soul on a spreadsheet. Raphinha was the architect of this 7-goal massacre. His pass to Lewandowski wasn't just an assist, it was a message. He saw a line of pass that didn't exist 3 seconds prior. He was playing chess while the Newcastle defense was playing checkers. He dropped deep into that half space between the midfield and the defense and carved them open like a Thanksgiving turkey. But then you have to look at the king. Messi's vision is not just about seeing the past, it is about predicting the future. Messi sees 3 moves ahead of the defender's heartbeat. While Raphinha gave us a masterclass tonight, earning himself a strong 9, Messi remains the only 10 in history. Raphinha's passes were surgical, but Messi's passes are divine. The Brazilian was a genius tonight, but the Argentine is the definition of the word. Let's discuss the flair and magic. This is what the modern game is missing. We are tired of robots. We are tired of wingers who only know how to run in straight lines and cross the ball into the first defender. Raphinha brought the Jogo Bonito back to the Camp Nou tonight. There were moments of improvisation that made the crowd gasp. A flick here, a nutmeg there, a body feint that sent Don Burn back to the north of England without a map. It was pure, unadulterated joy. He played with a smile and a swagger that reminded us why we fell in love with this game. He gets an 8.54 Magic because he dared to be creative in an era of tactical rigidity. But again, we have to be honest. Lionel Messi did things with a football that defied the laws of physics. Messi didn't need to show off because his entire existence was a highlight reel. Messi is the Magic. Raphinha was the magician's best apprentice tonight, but the crown stays in Rosario. Now, let's look at the dictating of tempo and IQ. This was perhaps the most shocking part of Raphinha's performance. Usually, he is a high-speed engine, a chaotic force on the wing. But tonight, against Newcastle, he was the governor. He knew exactly when to speed the game up and exactly when to put his foot on the ball and kill the Magpies' momentum. Every time Newcastle tried to muster a response, Raphinha would simply take control of the rhythm and slow their heart rates down before delivering another lethal blow. His tactical intelligence in the chaos was off the charts. He understood where the weakness was in Howe's system, and he exploited it for 90 minutes. For this, he gets a 9. He was the smartest man in the stadium. Messi, however, invented the tempo. Messi could make an entire Champions League final move at his walking pace. The level of IQ Messi displayed for 2 decades is something Raphinha is only now beginning to touch. We have to talk about the physical engine and grit. This is where the Brazilian actually challenges the legend. Raphinha was everywhere. He was a lung on legs. He wasn't just attacking, he was the first man to press. He was winning tackles in his own half and sprinting 60 yards to lead the counterattack. His work rate is terrifying. He looked like he could have played another 90 minutes. At the same intensity, this is the one area where the modern game demands more than the past. Raphinha gets a 9.5 for his engine. He's a physical specimen that combines the grace of a dancer with the stamina of a marathon runner. Messi in his prime had incredible burst and balance, but he didn't have the defensive grit or the relentless pressing numbers that Raphinha produced tonight. In the modern high-press system, Raphinha is a weapon that even prime Messi might struggle to match in terms of pure defensive volume. But then we get to the long-range shooting and the weak foot. Raphinha's goal at the end of the match was a statement of intent. He doesn't just want to be the provider, he wants to be the executioner. His striking of the ball is clean and powerful. But is it Messi level? Messi's left foot is a heat-seeking missile. From 25 yards out, a Messi shot was basically a penalty with a wall in the way. Raphinha is lethal, and his weak foot is surprisingly reliable, making him a nightmare to show onto one side, but he hasn't yet reached that level of inevitability. When Messi stepped up to a ball, the stadium already knew it was a goal. Raphinha still has to prove that consistency over a decade. The debate is raging in the comments already. The Premier League fans are saying, Newcastle had an off day. The Barca fans are saying, the king has a successor. But the legend meter doesn't lie. We are looking at a performance for the ages, but we are comparing a man to a myth. Raphinha was a giant tonight. He was the owner of the pitch. He was the MVP, without a shadow of a doubt. But the shadow of the little man from Rosario still looms large over every inch of the Camp Nou grass. We have 5 more categories to go, and the scores are closer than anyone expected. Now we dive into the deep end of the ocean where the pressure crushes the weak and only the legends breathe. Let's talk about pure pace and physical dominance. Raphinha against Newcastle was a blur of Blaugrana. He wasn't just fast, he was explosive. He turned the Magpies' fullbacks into statues and left them questioning their career choices. The way he transitioned from a standing start to top speed while keeping the ball under a spell was a sight to behold. In the modern game, where everyone is an athlete, Raphinha is a turbocharged engine. He gets a 9 for pure pace because he used it as a weapon of war, not just a track meet. But then you look at Messi. Messi wasn't just fast, he was quick in a way that defied human biology. His acceleration in the first 5 yards was a teleportation act. While Raphinha is a sprinter, Messi was a lightning bolt. Raphinha wins on long-distance speed, but Messi owns the space between the heartbeats. Then we arrive at the big game clutch factor. The paradox, the moment where the stadium goes silent and the world waits for a hero. Raphinha tonight was the definition of clutch. When Newcastle tried to claw back into the match, he didn't hide. He demanded the ball. He dictated the terms of their surrender. He stepped up in a massive Champions League knockout atmosphere and performed like he was playing in his backyard. That is the mark of a leader. He gets an 8.5 for his decision-making and big-game temperament tonight. But we are comparing him to the man who scored in 2 Champions League finals and conquered the World Cup in the most dramatic fashion in history. Messi is a 10. There is no debate. Messi is the pressure cooker's favorite chef. Raphinha proved he can handle the heat tonight, but Messi is the fire itself. Let's get into the unpredictability. This is where the English defenders really suffered. They didn't know if Raphinha was going to cut inside and shoot or go to the byline and cross or play a disguised reverse pass through the middle. He was a Rubik's Cube that Eddie Howe couldn't solve. Every time they thought they had him trapped, he found a third way out. His improvisation was at an all-time high. For unpredictability, he earns a 9. He kept the entire Newcastle She on their toes and looking over their shoulders for 90 minutes. Messi, however, was predictably unpredictable. You knew he wanted to go left. The whole world knew he was going left. The coaches, the fans, the ball boys, and the security guards knew he was going left. And yet nobody could stop it. That is the highest form of genius. Raphinha is a box of tricks, but Messi was a glitch in the game. Finally, we reach the ultimate category, the one that defines the greats. When Raphinha walked out onto the pitch tonight, he had the look of a man who knew he was going to win. He carried himself with a swagger that resonated through the stands. The fans felt it, the opponents feared it. After the 7-2 demolition, Raphinha's aura has skyrocketed. He is no longer just a talented winger, he is a Barcelona protagonist. He earns a massive 8.5 for his presence tonight. But Messi has an aura that stops time. When Messi stood over a free kick, the entire planet held its breath. Messi's aura is a gravitational pull that affects the entire stadium. Raphinha is becoming a star, but Messi is the sun around which the footballing solar system orbits. So where does this leave us in the legend meter? Raphinha tonight was a 9.5 in performance, but in the historical comparison he is chasing a ghost. He was the king of the Camp Nou tonight, but the throne still belongs to the art. Raphinha showed us that the soul of Brazilian football is alive and well in Catalonia. He showed us that intensity and magic can live in the same body. He humiliated an English giant and made it look easy. He deserves every bit of the standing ovation he received. He was the conductor of a 7-goal symphony that will be remembered for years in Barcelona. The spreadsheet generation will look at his assists and his distance covered and say he is the best in the world right now. The purists will look at the way he manipulated the ball and say he is the heir to the throne. But the truth is somewhere in the middle. Raphinha is writing his own story. He isn't trying to be the next Messi, he is trying to be the first. And if he keeps playing like he did tonight, the Premier League better be careful because he is coming for every record they hold dear. He was a nightmare for Newcastle and a dream for the Black. Look at the scores. Look at the attributes. Raphinha is closing the gap in ways we never thought possible. His work rate is superior, his defensive contribution is on another planet, and his tactical flexibility is giving him an edge in the modern tactical battle. But when it comes to the pure art of the game, the magic, and the divine touch, Messi remains the gold standard. Raphinha was the MVP of the night, but Messi is the MVP of eternity. The battle between the statistics and the aura continues. Did Raphinha do enough to convince you? Is he the man to lead Barcelona back to the pinnacle of world football? Or was this just a perfect storm against a struggling Newcastle side? The comments are going to be a war zone tonight, and we are here for it. The legend meter has spoken. Raphinha is a giant in the making. He showed the world that he can dominate a game with his mind as much as his feet. He took a Newcastle team that prides itself on physicality, and he outmuscled them, outran them, and outthought them. It was a performance of total football. From the first whistle to the final goal, he was the dominant force. He was the reason 7 goals ended up in the back of the net. He was the reason Newcastle left the pitch with their heads bowed in shame. Respect to Brasilia, because tonight he was more than a player, he was a phenomenon. But never forget the level of the GOAT. Messi set the bar so high it sits in the clouds. Raphinha is climbing the mountain, and tonight he reached a peak that very few have ever touched. It was a masterclass in how to play the position of attacking midfielder. It was a lesson in how to humiliate an opponent with grace and intensity. The world saw a superstar tonight. They saw the Dono do Jogo. They saw the man who turned the Camp Nou into his personal playground. The scores are in, and the debate is officially open. Raphinha is elite. Raphinha is a monster. But Messi is Messi.